Justice for victims of Jeffrey Epstein has been elusive. Now there's a new deal to compensate victims through the now deceased part-time Palm Beachers estate.
CBS 12's Chuck Weber looks at how and what happens next. Chuck?
Right here, this is the downtown West Palm Beach office building where Jeffrey Epstein came during his work release. Last summer, Epstein died in federal custody in New York 2 days before he moved his assets to the Virgin Islands. Now, after months of negotiations, there's a deal to compensate victims from his estate.
The hope is that if we can allow these victims to come forward, not be shamed, not be victimized again.
West Palm Beach attorney Spencer Kuven is represented in one lawsuit settlements for 3 local women who say as underage teens, Jeffrey Epstein lured them to his Palm Beach compound for massages that led to sex acts.
So the compensation fund that's been set up in the Virgin Islands is basically all of the assets that Mr. Epstein attempted to transfer over into a trust to hide them from the victims.
Kuven says the fund will have an independent administrator advised by a victims advocate. And Kuven says the fund will not only be open to victims who've never come forward,
but potentially to victims who did in fact come forward and had resolved their cases previous, if their cases had been resolved for less than a fair value due to the pressures that were put on them at the time.
Including Kuven's own clients and other local women like Courtney Wild, who've come to the forefront pushing to hold Epstein and his co-conspirators accountable.
Of the numerous co-conspirators that allowed Mr. Epstein to do what he did to these young girls, and we intend to fully prosecute our cases against those co-conspirators in civil court.
Brad Edwards, who represents Palm Beach County victim Wild, issued a statement calling the Virgin Islands Fund a step in the right direction. He says Jeffrey Epstein's death deprived his victims of the opportunity to see him held accountable for the crimes he committed against them. The only justice available to his victims now is his $600 million estate. The probate court in the Virgin Islands still has to approve the Victims' Compensation Fund. Meanwhile, investigations into alleged co-conspirators are ongoing. In West Palm Beach, Chuck Weber, CBS 12 News.